explain something to you. I'll rob you guys and rob you guys and rob you guys, and then when I finally pick up a hand, you guys are gonna stick it. I'm gonna get cold deck, because that's what my life of poker's about.
He was a loudmouth guy with a gambling habit, caught in a federal sting and going downhill fast. Most people thought he was done for, but instead of disappearing like so many others, he clawed his way back in a way no one saw coming. What happened next stunned the poker world and showed that sometimes the wildest legends rise from the darkest places. This is the insane true story of how a drug dealer went from prison to poker legend. Mike Matusow, better known in the poker world as The Mouth, came up in Los Angeles, born April 30th, 1968. From early on, life wasn't exactly smooth. He was bullied, got into trouble, but always stood up for himself, even if it meant getting knocked down. Outside the chaos, Mike had dreams of becoming a mechanic, and even finished high school thinking that's the path he'd take. But life had other plans. After taking a job at a furniture store, a friend introduced him to poker at the Maxim Casino when he was just 18, and from that point on, everything changed. He got obsessed with video poker. At one point, he was even sneaking money from his mom just to keep playing. By the time he turned 20, Mike was working for his parents by day and losing every dime at the casino by night. Even when he won, he'd throw it all back into even riskier games. It was a losing cycle that led him straight into a gambling addiction program. Now, here's the twist. After just a few Gamblers Anonymous meetings, Mike didn't walk away from gambling. He doubled down. He got himself a job as a poker dealer at Sam's Town in Vegas. The job was perfect. He was getting paid to study the game and the players. Every shuffle, every hand, he was soaking it all in, sharpening his skills. He kept grinding, but nothing major happened until he met Steve Samaroff, a quiet, older poker pro. Soon, Mike was playing tournaments and cash games regularly, especially Omaha High-Low. He started making real money. In time, he built a solid rep in the high-stakes world, holding his own against rising stars like Todd Brunson and Jennifer Harmon. At one point, he was on fire, winning 81 out of 82 days, stacking up $250,000. His momentum was real, and people were starting to notice. His tournament journey started in 1996 with a $335 limit hold'em event in Vegas, where he placed third and took home about $7,500. Huge money for him at the time. Then in 1997, he made his first big splash at the World Series of Poker, finishing second in the $2,000 Omaha High-Low event. He lost that day to Scotty Nguyen. Funny how life works, because the two of them would meet again the very next year, but in a totally unexpected way. In 1998, both Mike and Scotty Nguyen were backed by the same guy, Neil. Now Scotty had already won around $65,000 during the series, but Neil refused to cover his entry into the main event. But then, Mike decided to stake Scotty by buying him into 4 separate satellite events. Scotty lost everyone. Scotty begged for one more shot. Mike covered a third. Scotty won the satellite and the main event. Mike pocketed $300,000. By the next year, Mike wasn't waiting on dreams or anyone else. He stepped up and took it into his own hands. That's when he captured his first WSOP bracelet, crushing the $3,500 no-limit hold'em event by beating Alex Bernay's heads up. He'd already raked in hundreds of thousands before that, but this was the one that made it official. In 2000, he jumped into a 540 PLO 8 event at Carnival Die Poker in Vegas and walked away with nearly $50,000. It became clear Mike wasn't just a one-game wonder. He was mastering all kinds of poker. Stud 8, PLO 8, no limit, hold'em mixed games. He could play it all. He was on fire. But not every run was smooth. Later that year, he busted out of a 7-card stud tourney at Binion's Horseshoe. Instead of the $129,000 top prize he felt he deserved, he settled for just under $10,000. Miserable about the loss, he was venting to his girlfriend, who also happened to be a stripper from Puerto Rico and had a little love for pills. Later that night at Club Rio, she told him to take a hit of ecstasy to calm his nerves. Mike was 32 at the time and had never touched a hard substance. He asked friends, braced for the worst, then felt amazing. That bad energy disappeared, and he danced the night away. By morning, his whole perspective shifted. He thought ecstasy was the greatest thing ever, and that kicked off a whole new chapter. Mike partied hard on drugs all weekend, then played poker midweek, but it caught up fast. Within a year, the drugs started messing with his game. He couldn't lock in, couldn't read players like he used to. His edge? Slipping bad. Then came the 2001 World Series of Poker, and he bombed. Not 1 cent. That's when the panic really hit. Then his girlfriend brought up speed, said it was big in poker circles for staying sharp. With 613 players in the 2001 WSOP main event, Mike figured, why not? Snorted his first line, and he was locked in, played out of his mind. He was picking up tells left and right, reading every little shift in behavior. His instincts were on fire. He made it all the way to the final table, but lost to Carlos Mortensen in the final. But by the time the world caught poker fever in the early 2000s, Mike was already a known name. The poker boom was in full swing. And just like Phil Hellmuth, Daniel Negreanu, and Phil Ivey, Mike was riding that wave and cashing in. But what made Mike different? While those other guys were building polished brands and loyal fan bases, Mike was doing the exact opposite. And that's how he earned the nickname The Mouth. He stirred the pot, snapped at opponents, and wore every emotion on his sleeve, whether he was winning or getting crushed. He'd fly off the handle at the table, yelling at players, calling them every name in the book: moron, idiot, donkey. If someone sucked out on him or made what he thought was a trash play and won, he exploded. It became so common that other players literally started calling it Mike's explosion. And the wildest part? These meltdowns usually happened when he was actually doing well in the tournament. Still, none of that seemed to bother Mike. He admitted he'd go broke all the time and just didn't care. His confidence in his poker game was so high, he believed someone would always stake him. In his mind, being a great poker player meant he'd never truly be out of the game. But after winning his second World Series of Poker bracelet in 2002, things started to spiral. His judgment started slipping, and he found himself rolling with the wrong crowd. Mike had already been deep in the Vegas party scene, but one wild night at a Pimps and Hoes themed party took things to a whole new level. He dropped $5,000 on a booth at the Palms and was handing out substances like it was candy. That's when he met Mike Fento, a smooth talker who claimed to have ties to a Chicago crime family. Fento slid into Mike's life fast. Dinners, movies, poker convos. But underneath all that charm, it was all a setup. Fento claimed he was in town to open a strip club and needed help laundering money. Mike brushed it off but didn't back away when it came to substances. He helped Fento score all kinds, thinking it was just for friends. But Fento barely paid him, and Mike's gut kept sending warnings. Still, he stayed involved, out of fear and loyalty. Everything blew up when an old dealer called, screaming that Fento was a DEA snitch. At first, Mike didn't believe it until the dealer's brother-in-law, an actual DEA agent, confirmed the surveillance. Then came the takedown. On September 25, 2003, cops stormed Mike's house and arrested him on drug trafficking charges. He thought it was a mistake, but the feds were serious. They gave him a choice: flip and help them take down a nightclub owner, or face years behind bars. Mike refused. He wasn't a rat, and he feared the consequences. He hired top lawyer David Chesnoff and dropped $200,000 on his defense. Chesnoff knew it was bad, entrapment was a stretch, and federal prison was looming. Eventually, he worked out a deal: 6 months in county jail instead of a decade in federal lockup. The good news for Mike was that all these delays in the legal process allowed him to play in the 2004 World Series of Poker before he had to serve his time. But it didn't take long for reality to hit hard. Luckily, right before doing his time, he'd won $250,000 in a tournament. Trying to be smart, he stashed $50,000 to cover bills while he was locked up. The other $200,000? He gave it to a buddy to bet on sports. Huge mistake. Every dime was gone. By the time he got out, he was basically broke, but his longtime poker friend Phil Hellmuth stepped in with a loan to help him get back on his feet. Matusow didn't just recover. He exploded back into the game. In no time, his bankroll ballooned to $750,000. He bought a BMW, paid off a mountain of debt, and entered the 2005 World Series of Poker with a whole new attitude. That year, he made magic. He finished 9th at the main event. But the real moment was winning the Tournament of Champions, trash-talking Hellmuth all the way. That win on top of the main event run marked a major comeback and shot him right back into the spotlight. As part of Team Full Tilt Poker, Mike was back in prime form. He was sharing the stage with legends Phil Ivey, Tom Dwan, Chris Ferguson. Back then, Matusow was one of the biggest names in the game. Then came April 15th, 2011, Black Friday. The day online poker got rocked to its core. Full Tilt Poker was shut down in the US, and Mike said it ruined his life. After the shutdown, players started flooding him with angry messages saying he owed Full Tilt money they thought should have gone back to the players locked out of their accounts. He denied all of it. Said he lost everything when Full Tilt collapsed: his sponsorship, his income, even the millions sitting in his player account. People started counting him out, calling him washed. But in 2013, Mike Matusow came back swinging, stronger than ever. In early 2013, Mike Matusow found himself in a dark place, broke depressed and stuck in bed after another brutal NFL season left his pockets empty. But then he got wind that the NBC National Heads-Up Poker Championship was coming back. One problem, he hadn't been invited. That silence hit harder than ever. Mike called Moria Scandani, got the green light, and it flipped a switch. He prepared like never before, determined to show the world he still had it. Even after not playing Heads-Up No Limit for 2 years, he trained hard and came in ready. He tore through legends: Barry Greenstein, Mike Mizrachi, Johnny Hennigan, Victor Bloom, and Scott Seiber. Each win fueled him more. Then came the final against Phil Hellmuth. First match, Mike dominated. Second, Phil adjusted. But when it mattered most, Mike played it smart. On the final hand, holding ace-jack of diamonds against Phil's ace-3, he paused, thought it through, and made the call. The flop came 3-3-10 with 2 diamonds. When the diamond hit the river, the room exploded. That win got him the NBC title and a $750,000 payday. But he wasn't finished. That same year, he grabbed his 4th WSOP bracelet in his favorite game, $5,000 7-card stud, high-low split 8 or better, taking down Matthew Ashton heads up. That win wasn't just about the cash. It was a statement. After all the losses, the pain, and people counting him out, Mike never stopped betting on himself. Loud, raw, and real. He was one of the last of a dying breed. But just as things were looking up, tragedy hit. In 2014, Mike hit one of the lowest points of his life. He was in the middle of a poker game when the chair he was sitting on suddenly gave out, and boom, he suffered a thoracic spinal contusion. Serious back injury. He couldn't walk and was one step away from being paralyzed. Just like that, he had to step away from poker, and in this game, if you're not playing, you're not earning. He lost his whole bankroll, even lost his house. That was rock bottom. He ended up sitting out the entire 2015 season. But in 2016, the mouth made his return. His bankroll was way smaller, but his heart was still in it. He came back swinging, determined to climb his way back into poker's spotlight. And he's been there, year after year. Mike's a straight-up regular at every World Series of Poker going way back. Even when he's not making deep runs, he's out there grinding. In 2023, he came real close to snagging his 5th bracelet, finishing second in the 1,507-card stud high-low. So close, just missed it. But despite everything he's accomplished, Matusow still hasn't been inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame. He's been nominated plenty of times, but he believes the whole thing is driven more by politics than poker skill. And Mike, he's always spoken his mind, never played the politics game, and that's probably held him back. Still, there's no denying it. Mike Matusow is one of the best to ever do it.